The live stream had already reached 50,000 viewers. When Derek Morrison realized his entire football scholarship was about to vanish all because he'd cornered the wrong girl in the science hallway. Elena Harper stood there, her thick-rimmed glasses reflecting the phone screens recording from every angle, as she calmly explained how she documented 3 months of his crew's harassment, manipulation, and grade-fixing scheme. The captain of Westfield High's championship team had made one fatal mistake. He'd assumed that a quiet girl with a robotics club pin and second-hand textbooks would be an easy target, never imagining she'd been collecting evidence that would bring down the entire corrupt system protecting him. Elena Harper's stomach churned as she stood outside Westfield High School. Her mother's beat-up Honda Civic disappearing into the morning traffic. The imposing brick building loomed before her, all Gothic arches and ivy-covered walls that screamed old money and tradition. She adjusted her oversized cardigan, a thrift store find that had seen better days, and pushed her glasses up her nose. At 17, she'd already attended 4 different schools, thanks to her mother's nursing assignments. But something about this place felt different. Maybe it was the row of luxury cars in the student parking lot, or the way groups of students moved in clearly defined packs, each claiming their territory on the sprawling front lawn. She clutched her worn messenger bag closer, feeling the weight of her laptop inside. At least she had her coding projects to keep her company during lunch. That's how it had worked at every other school. Stay invisible, focus on academics, graduate, and move on. But as she climbed the stone steps, she couldn't shake the feeling that Westfield High would test that strategy in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The main hallway buzzed with activity. Trophy cases lined the walls, gleaming with decades of athletic achievements. Elena noticed how students parted like the Red Sea as a group of boys in Letterman jackets swaggered through. At the center was Derek Morrison, and even she, having been here all of 30 seconds, could tell he ruled this place. 6'3", with perfectly styled dark hair and the kind of confident smirk that came from never being told no. Derek moved like he owned not just the hallway but everyone in it. Fresh meat? Someone whispered as she passed, followed by snickers. Elena kept her head down, following the map on her phone to find her locker, room 23B in the science wing. Of course they'd stick the new kid in the furthest corner of the building. She was so focused on navigating that she didn't notice the foot extended in her path until she was already falling. Her bait flew open, scattering notebooks, pens, and her prized Possessiona Raspberry Pi computer she'd been programming across the polished floor. Laughter erupted around her as she landed hard on her knees. Oops. Sorry about that. A voice drawled above her. Didn't see you there. Guess you blend into the background. Elena looked up to find Derek Morrison standing over her, his friends flanking him like bodyguards, Tyler Chen and Marcus Williams. She'd later learn their names, both wearing matching smirks. Derek's foot was still extended, making it clear the trip had been intentional. Here, let me help you with that, Derek said, reaching for her Raspberry Pi. He held it up, examining it with exaggerated confusion. What is this? Some kind of ancient calculator? Man, public school kids really get the short end of the stick. Who? More laughter. Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she forced herself to stay calm. 3 more months. That's all she had to endure before graduation. She stood slowly, brushing off her knees, and held out her hand for the device. It's a microcomputer, she said quietly. I'm building a home automation system. Derek's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. Oh, we got ourselves a little genius here. Hear that? Boys? She's building robots. He tossed the Raspberry Pi to Tyler, who caught it and pretended to examine it like a foreign artifact. What's next? Gonna hack into the Pentagon from your mom's basement? Can I please have it back? Elena asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Say please, Derek commanded, his playful tone taking on an edge. I did. Say pretty please. His friends chuckled, enjoying the show. A crowd was forming now, students pretending to access their lockers while actually watching the entertainment. Elena weighed her options. She could grab for it, likely fail, and give them more ammunition. She could walk away and sacrifice her project, or she could play along and hope they'd get bored. Before she could decide, a teacher's voice cut through the tension. Morrison, Don't you have practice to get to? Coach Anderson appeared at the end of the hallway, his presence immediately changing the dynamic. Derek straightened, his demeanor shifting to respectful in an instant, just welcoming the new student. Coach, Derek said, all innocent charm. He nodded to Tyler, who handed the raspberry pie back to Elena with exaggerated care. See you around. Robot girl. The trio sauntered off, high-fiving and laughing. Elena gathered her scattered belongings, aware of the dozens of eyes still on her. Some held sympathy, others amusement, but most showed relief that they weren't the ones in Derek's crosshairs. You okay? A girl with purple-streaked hair and kind eyes knelt beside her, helping collect the last of her pens. I'm Sophia. That was a pretty mild Derek encounter. Actually, last week he stuffed a freshman in a locker just for wearing the wrong brand of shoes. Elena? She replied, grateful for the kindness. Is he always like that? Sophia glanced around nervously before answering. Derek Morrison owns this school. His dad practically funds the football program, and his mom's on the school board. He's untouchable. She lowered her voice further. Word of advice? Stay invisible? Derek and his crew pick a target every semester, someone to make miserable. Looks like you just made the shortlist. Elena finally found her locker and began organizing her things. Thanks for the warning. I'm pretty good at being invisible. But even as she said it, she knew it was already too late. She'd seen the look in Derek's eyes, the predatory gleam of someone who'd found new entertainment. And sure enough, by lunch, her nickname had already spread through the school, Robot Girl. The cafeteria at Westfield High was a masterclass in social stratification. The athletes dominated the center tables, with Derek's table serving as the unofficial throne. The arts kids clustered near the windows, the overachievers by the trophy case, and the various other cliques filled in the gaps. Elena found an empty table in the corner, pulling out her laptop to work on code while she ate her packed lunch. She'd barely opened her IDE when a shadow fell across her screen. Tyler Chen stood there, Derek's lieutenant, wearing a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mind if I sit? He asked, already sliding into the seat across from her. Derek feels bad about this morning. Wants to make sure you're settling in okay. Elena's fingers paused over her keyboard. I'm fine. Thanks. What are you working on? Tyler leaned forward, feigning interest. Derek wasn't kidding about you being smart. We could use someone like you. For what? Oh, you know, tutoring. Helping with projects. Derek's taking AP Computer Science this semester. Needs to keep his GPA up for his Syracuse scholarship. Tyler's smile widened. He'd make it worth your while. Derek's good to his friends. Elena recognized the offer for what it was: do Derek's homework, or become his permanent target. She chose her words carefully. I appreciate the offer, but I've got my own coursework to focus on. Tyler's friendly facade cracked slightly. You sure about that? Derek doesn't like hearing no. Then maybe Derek should study harder. Elena replied, returning to her code. Tyler stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Your funeral. Robot girl. Don't say I didn't try to help. After he left, Elena noticed Sophia watching from across the cafeteria. The girl quickly looked away, but not before Elena caught the expression on her face, a mixture of admiration and pity, like watching someone walk knowingly into a minefield. The rest of the week confirmed Elena's worst suspicions. Her locker was filled with printed robot memes. Her textbooks mysteriously disappeared from her bag during PE. Someone created an Instagram account called Robot Girl Chronicles, featuring unflattering photos of her taken without permission. Each post garnered hundreds of likes and comments from Westfield students. But it was Friday when things escalated beyond typical bullying. Elena was staying late in the computer lab, working on a project for her AP Computer Science class. Ironically, the same class Derek was failing. The lab was supposedly secure, requiring keycard access. But she wasn't surprised when she heard the door click open behind her. Working hard or hardly working? Derek's voice filled the empty room. He was alone this time, which somehow felt more threatening than having his crew with him. Elena saved her work and turned to face him. The lab's closed? How did you get in? He held up a keycard. Perks of being a Morrison. My mom made sure I have access to all the academic resources I might need. He moved closer, examining her screen. That's some pretty advanced stuff. You really are a little genius. Aren't you? What do you want? Derek? Straight to the point. I like that. He pulled up a chair, sitting uncomfortably close. Here's the deal. Robot girl. I need an A in comp sci. You're going to help me get it. I already told Tyler. No. You told Tyler you were too busy. Derek's voice hardened. But see, I don't think you understand how things work here. When I ask for something, it's not really asking. Elena felt her heart rate spike, but kept her voice level. Are you threatening me? Threatening? No. 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 Derek laughed. But it was cold. I'm explaining reality. You do my assignments. Take my tests. Whatever it takes. In return, your life here becomes bearable. You don't? And well, he shrugged. Let's just say I can make these last 3 months feel like 3 years. That's cheating. That's survival. Derek countered. You think I'm the only one? Half the team has arrangements like this? It's how the ecosystem works. The smart kids help the athletes. The athletes bring glory to the school. Everyone wins. Everyone except the people doing all the work. Derek's jaw tightened. You know what your problem is? You think you're better than everyone? Walking around with your little computer, acting like you're too good to play the game. He stood, looming over here. News flash in the real world. People like me win. We get the scholarships, the connections, the opportunities. People like you? You're just the help. Elena felt anger bubble up inside her. But she pushed it down. I won't do your work for you. Your mistake, Derek said, heading for the door. He paused at the threshold. Oh. And that little robot project you've been working on? The one you probably need for your MIT application or wherever? Would be a real shame if something happened to it. After he left, Elena sat in the empty lab, her hands shaking slightly. She dealt with bullies before, but Derek was different. He wasn't just mean, he was systematic, protected, and smart enough to know exactly how to hurt her. She pulled out her phone and started recording a voice memo, documenting the encounter while it was fresh. She didn't know what she'd do with it yet, but something told her she needed to start building a record. Monday morning brought a new level of harassment. Elena arrived to find her locker not just decorated but completely wrapped in industrial plastic wrap with a printed sign reading, "Do not open until graduation robot girls quarantine zone." It took her 20 minutes and a pair of scissors from the janitor to get it open, making her late for first period. Miss Peterson, her English teacher, barely glanced up when Elena tried to explain, "Just take your seat, Miss Harper, and try to manage your time better." The snickers from Derek's corner of the room told Elena he'd probably had a word with the teacher about the difficult new student who was always making excuses. During chemistry, someone had replaced all her lab notes with pages printed from a How to Build Friends for Dummies guide. In PE, her gym clothes were soaked in what smelled like energy drink. By the time she reached her computer science class, Elena was exhausted from the constant vigilance required just to get through the day. Mr. Rodriguez, the computer science teacher, was one of the few bright spots at Westfield. Young, enthusiastic, and actually knowledgeable about coding. He treated his students like future colleagues rather than children. But even he seemed constrained by the school's politics. "Elena, can you stay after class?" he asked as the bell rang. She waited as the other students filed out, Derek shooting her a knowing smirk as he passed. "I wanted to check in. Mr. Rodriguez said once they were alone, "Your work has been exceptional, honestly. Some of the best I've seen from a high school student, but I've noticed you seem distracted lately." Elena weighed her options. Could she trust him? "I'm fine. Just adjusting to the new school." He studied her for a moment. "You know, Derek Morrison asked for a tutor yesterday, said he's really committed to improving his grade." The way he said it made it clear he wasn't buying Derek's sudden academic interest. "I told him I'd think about it. But Elena, I want you to know that your work is your work. No one should be taking credit for your brilliance." It was as close to support as she'd gotten from any authority figure, and Elena felt a spark of hope. "Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I appreciate that. That said," he continued carefully, "Derek's family has a lot of influence here. If there's any pressure being applied, Document everything. Email trails. Witnesses. Dates and times. You understand? Elena nodded. He was telling her to protect herself while stopping short of actually intervening. It was more than most would do. But it also confirmed what she'd suspected. Even the good teachers were limited in what they could do against the Morrisons of the world. That night, Elena sat in her room, laptop open, staring at the code she'd been working on for months. Her MIT application projected an AI-powered accessibility app for students with learning disabilities. It was good work. Innovative, even. But would it be enough if Derek sabotaged her grades or worse? She opened a new document and began typing, Westfield High Incident Lodge Elena Harper, Entry 1, the 5th of September. Hallway Incident. Derek Morrison. Tyler Chen. Marcus Williams. Intentional trip. Scattered belongings. She documented everything she could remember from the past week, creating a detailed record with times, locations, and witnesses. It felt paranoid, but Mr. Rodriguez's warning echoed in her mind. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a photo of her at her locker that morning, struggling with the plastic wrap, with the caption, Robot Girl Malfunction. Have you tried turning her off and on again? The number was obviously fake, probably from a burner app, but Elena screenshot it anyway. Adding it to her growing file, Tuesday brought a new tactic. Instead of outright harassment, Derek and his crew began a campaign of isolation. Anyone who talked to Elena found themselves suddenly uninvited from parties, removed from group chats, or mysteriously benched during team practices. Sophia, who had been friendly that first day, now avoided eye contact in the halls. When Elena approached her during lunch, the girl looked genuinely pained. I'm sorry, Sophia whispered, glancing around nervously. I can't. My brother's on the basketball team. If Derek tells coach to bench him. She trailed off, hurrying away. Elena understood. She didn't blame Sophia or the others who suddenly acted like she was invisible. Derek had weaponized the entire social structure of the school against her. By Wednesday, the isolation was complete. Elena moved through the halls like a ghost, speaking only when called on in class. Eating lunch alone in the library, she threw herself into her coding, using the time to refine her MIT project and explore new frameworks. It was during one of these library sessions that she made a discovery that changed everything. Elena was researching database vulnerabilities for a cybersecurity assignment when she noticed something odd in the school's network. Westfield High's system was surprisingly robust for a high school. But like many institutions, they'd made the classic mistake of focusing on external threats while ignoring internal ones. She wasn't actively trying to hack anything that would be both illegal and unethical, but as she explored the publicly accessible parts of the school's web infrastructure for her assignment, she noticed patterns, unusual login times, suspicious file modifications, and what looked like grade changes, all originating from a specific set of IP addresses. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she documented what she was seeing, careful not to access anything she shouldn't. But the evidence was there in the public logs, plain as day for anyone who knew where to look. Someone was systematically changing grades in the system, and based on the timestamps and patterns, Elena had a pretty good idea who. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Still playing with your toys. Robot girl, why don't you build yourself a life? This time, though, Elena smiled. She screenshotted the message and added it to her file. But her mind was racing with possibilities. Derek thought she was just another nerd he could push around. He had no idea what she was actually capable of. That night, Elena worked until 3 a.m. Not on her MIT project, but on something new. She called it Project Transparency, a completely legal, above-board system that would aggregate publicly available information about academic performance, athletic statistics, and school records. Nothing that wasn't already accessible to students, just organized in a way that made patterns visible. She was careful to build it on her own servers, using only data that was legally obtainable, but she knew that sometimes the most powerful weapon against corruption wasn't breaking the rules, it was following them to the letter while shining a light on those who didn't. Thursday morning came too quickly. Elena dragged herself out of bed, exhausted but energized by her late-night coding session. She had something now. a potential equalizer. But she needed to be smart about how she used it. The harassment continued, escalating in small but cruel ways. Her backpack was filled with glue during PE. Someone had created deepfake images of her and spread them through group chats. The Robot Girl Chronicles Instagram account now had over 1,000 followers, all eager to see the daily humiliation of Westfield High's newest target. But Elena endured it all with a new sense of purpose. Every incident was documented, every witness noted, every digital footprint preserved. She was building a case, though for what exactly? She wasn't sure yet. It was during lunch that Derek made his next move. Elena was in her usual corner of the library when he appeared, flanked by Tyler and Marcus. The librarian, Mrs. Chin, conveniently chose that moment to step out, still flying solo. Robot Girl? Derek pulled up a chair, spinning it backward and straddling it. You know, this could all stop. One word from me, and you're back in the land of the living. I'm fine. Thanks, Elena replied, not looking up from her screen. Derek reached over and slowly closed her laptop. See? That's your problem. You think you're fine. But you're not. You're miserable. I can see it. Everyone can see it. What do you want? Derek? Same thing I wanted before. Psi grade needs fixing. Midterms are coming up, and I need an A. He leaned closer. Do this for me, and I'll call off the dogs. Hell, I'll even make sure you get invited to some parties. Might be nice to have an actual high school experience before you graduate, right? Elena met his eyes for the first time. And if I say no? Derek's friendly mask slipped. Then things get worse. A lot worse. See? Right now. This is just fun and games. But I can make your transcript look like Swiss cheese. One word to the right people, and suddenly you're failing classes. Getting marked absent. Maybe even some honor code violations pop up. He smiled coldly. Syracuse doesn't care about some, nobody's future. But MIT? They might care about an applicant with integrity issues? You're talking about fraud? Academic fraud. Specifically, I'm talking about reality. Derek countered. You think you're the first smart kid to help out an athlete? It's tradition? The only difference is, most of them are smart enough to play along. Elena pulled out her phone. And Derek tensed. But she just checked the time. I have class in 5 minutes. Think about it. Derek said, standing. Oh. And that little app you're building, the accessibility thing, Tyler's dad works in tech, says projects like that are a dime a dozen. You're gonna need something more impressive for MIT. Maybe something that shows you can work with others? Be a team player? After they left, Elena opened her laptop again. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. Derek had just made a crucial mistake. He'd revealed how much he knew about her project, which meant he'd been doing more than just casual bullying. He'd been researching her, trying to find leverage, but in doing so, he'd also revealed his own vulnerability. Derek Morrison, star athlete and golden boy, was so desperate to maintain his GPA that he was willing to threaten and blackmail a fellow student, and if he was doing it to her, who else had he done it to? Elena opened her project transparency files and began cross-referencing the grade changes she'd noticed with the athletic roster. A pattern emerged immediately. Players who should have been academically ineligible suddenly sporting passing grades, test scores that jumped impossibly between assignments, and all of it traceable to those same IP addresses, the ones that belonged to the computer lab where Derek had confronted her. She leaned back in her chair, mind racing. She had evidence of systematic academic fraud that went beyond just Derek. This was a network, a whole system of cheating that probably extended to other athletes, possibly with the tacit approval of coaches and administrators who needed their stars on the field. But evidence wasn't enough. Elena had learned that the hard way at previous schools, the powerful always found ways to explain away inconvenient truths. She needed something more, a way to make the evidence impossible to ignore. That's when she remembered the livestream function she'd built into her accessibility app. It was designed to help students share their screens during virtual tutoring sessions, but with a few modifications. Elena smiled for the first time in days. Derek wanted her to be a team player? Fine. She'd show him exactly what kind of team she was willing to join. Friday morning arrived with an unusual energy crackling through Westfield High's halls. Elena had spent the entire night preparing, fueled by a combination of righteous anger and surgical precision. She'd modified her accessibility app's livestream function, creating what she called TruthStream, a platform that could broadcast simultaneously to multiple social media channels while maintaining archived copies on distributed servers. She arrived early, finding the school nearly empty except for janitors and a few overachieving students. Perfect. Elena made her way to the computer lab, where she set up her primary streaming station. She'd need backups. Of course, Derek wasn't stupid, and he'd try to shut her down once he realized what was happening. But Elena had learned from the best cybersecurity forums. Redundancy was key. By the time the first bell rang, Elena had positioned old smartphones running her app in 3 different locations, all connected to the school's Wi-Fi and ready to stream at the touch of a button. She'd even registered accounts on every major platform, using variations of Westfield Truth as usernames. "You look different today," a voice said behind her. Elena turned to find Jake Martinez, one of the school's AV club members and a fellow coding enthusiast. He'd kept his distance during Derek's campaign against her, but she'd noticed him watching with increasing discomfort. "Different how?" Elena asked, adjusting her glasses. "I don't know. Less hunted?" Jake glanced around nervously. "Look, I heard Derek's planning something big today. Some kind of final humiliation before midterms. Just be careful, okay?" Elena studied him for a moment. "Jake, what do you know about the grade-fixing system?" His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about. The athletic department's arrangement. The one where smart kids do the work and athletes get the grades." Elena kept her voice gentle. "Were you part of it?" Jake's shoulders slumped. "Sophomore year. Marcus threatened my little sister. Said she'd never make the dance team if I didn't help him with chemistry." He looked up, eyes glistening. "I've hated myself ever since. Do you have proof? Messages? Emails? Anything?" "Maybe." "Why?" Jake's eyes narrowed. "What are you planning?" Elena made a calculated decision to trust him. "Derek's going to come after me today. But this time, I'll be ready. And if you're willing to help, we can expose the whole system." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. "I screenshot everything. Never deleted them. I guess part of me always hoped someone would finally stand up to them. Send them to this email," Elena said, writing down an address. "And Jake, thank you." As Jake hurried off, Elena felt the first real flicker of hope. She wasn't alone in this. Others had been victims too, forced into silence by fear and intimidation. But fear only worked when people stood isolated. Together, they might actually have a chance. The morning passed in a blur. Elena attended her classes, taking careful notes not on the subjects but on the behavior around her. She noticed the anticipation in Derek's crew, the way they kept checking their phones and exchanging smirks. Whatever they had planned, it was coming soon. During third period, her phone buzzed, not from an unknown number this time, but from an email address she recognized. Sophia Chen. "I can't stand by anymore. Derek made me lie about Jason Williams. He never cheated on that test. Derek planted the evidence because Jason refused to throw the basketball game against Riverside. I have the texts where Derek bragged about it. I'm sorry I was such a coward." Another ally. Elena's network was growing. By lunch, she'd received messages from 6 different students. Each had a story about Derek or his crew. Academic blackmail, planted evidence, threats against siblings or friends. The pattern was clear. This wasn't just bullying. It was organized crime. High school edition. Elena sat in her usual library corner. But this time she wasn't alone. Jake had quietly spread the word, and a small group of Derek's former victims had gathered. They spoke in whispers, sharing their experiences. And Elena realized the true scope of what they were facing. "He's protected," said Ashley Kim, a junior who'd been forced to write essays for Tyler. "His mom's on the school board. His dad funds half the athletic program. Even if we show evidence, they'll find a way to bury it. Not if we make it impossible to ignore," Elena said. She pulled up her phone, showing them the streaming app. What if it wasn't just reported to the administration? What if everyone saw it happen? Live. Unedited. Undeniable? You want to live stream Derek? Jake asked, eyes widening. That's actually genius. He can't spin it if thousands of people watch it in real time, but we need him to incriminate himself. Elena continued. He needs to admit to the grade fixing, the threats, all of it. And I think I know how to make that happen. She outlined her plan. It was risky, requiring precise timing and nerves of steel, but as she looked around at the faces of her unexpected allies, students who'd been pushed around for too long, she saw determination replacing fear. When? Ashley asked. Today. After school. The science hallway is usually empty by 3:30. And it has the best acoustics. Elena smiled grimly. Derek wants a final confrontation? Let's give him one. He'll never forget. The rest of the day crawled by. Elena could feel the tension building, like the air before a thunderstorm. Derek's crew was getting bolder, openly laughing when she passed, making crude hysterics. They thought they were wolves, circling wounded prey. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. At 3:15, Elena received a text from the same unknown number that had been harassing her. Science hallway. 3:30. Come alone, or your MIT dreams are history. Time to end this. Robot girl. Elena smiled. Predictable to the end. She made her way to the science wing, her hidden cameras already in position and streaming to a private channel. Jake and the others were in place, ready to switch the stream public the moment Derek incriminated himself. Her heart pounded, but her hands were steady. This was just another system to debug. Another problem to solve. The science hallway was indeed empty. Fluorescent lights humming in the silence. Elena positioned herself near the trophy case, angling her body so the primary camera would catch both her and whoever approached. She pulled out her laptop, pretending to work while actually monitoring the stream quality. Crystal clear. Perfect. At exactly 3:30, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Derek appeared, flanked by Tyler and Marcus. But this time, they'd brought friends 5 more football players, forming a semicircle that trapped Elena against the wall. Punctual. I like that, Derek said, his voice carrying that familiar, arrogant drawl. Makes this easier. Makes what easier? Elena asked, her finger hovering over the button that would take the stream live. Your farewell party. Derek pulled out his phone, showing her a screen. See? I've been busy. That little accessibility app you're so proud of, the one you stupidly hosted on the school's development server during testing? Well, let's just say it's been modified. Elena's blood ran cold, but she kept her expression neutral. You hacked my project? Hacked is such an ugly word. Let's say I had some help from someone who actually understands computers. He nodded to Tyler, who grinned. Turns out your code had some interesting additions. Hidden functions that scrape personal data from users. Very unethical. MIT will be so disappointed. That's a lie. I never. Doesn't matter what you did or didn't do. Derek interrupted. What matters is what we can prove. And right now, we have evidence that you've been stealing student data. Your fingerprints are all over the code. Elena felt a moment of genuine fear. They'd gone further than she'd anticipated, actually framing her for cybercrimes. But then she remembered her backups, her version control history, the timestamps that would prove her innocence, and more importantly, she remembered that Derek had just admitted to unauthorized access of school servers and tampering with another student's work. Why? She asked. Buying time. Making sure the audio was picking up everything. Why go to all this trouble just to hurt me? Derek's face darkened. Because you had to be difficult. All you had to do was play along. Help me out. Be a good little nerd. But no, you had to act all high and mighty, like you're better than the system that's worked for decades. The system where athletes cheat their way through school. The system where everyone knows their place. Derek stepped closer, his teammates forming a tighter circle. You think this is just about grades? This is about order, hierarchy. The athletes bring glory to the school. The school protects the athletes. And people like you, the worker bees you, keep your heads down and do your part. And if we refuse, then you get crushed. Derek's voice was cold now, all pretense of charm gone. Just like Jason Williams when he wouldn't throw that game. Just like Katie Martinez when she tried to report Marcus for copying her homework. Just like every other, nobody who thought they could buck the system. Elena's finger pressed the button, The stream went live. "So you admit it?" she asked, her voice carrying clearly. "You've been running a grade-fixing scheme, threatening students, destroying anyone who won't comply?" Derek laughed. "Admit it, I'm proud of it. My dad ran the same system when he was here. It's tradition. It's—" He stopped, noticing something had changed in Elena's expression. "What are you smiling about?" "Oh, just thinking about how MIT actually values integrity," Elena said, turning her laptop around. The screen showed the livestream interface viewer count climbing rapidly. Wu Bei. E. Ling. R. Wu Bei. Comments flooding in faster than the app could display them. Derek's face went white. "What did you do?" "I'm doing what you suggested," Elena replied calmly. "Being a team player. Showing everyone what kind of team really runs this school." "Turn it off," Derek lunged forward. But Elena sidestepped, her weeks of torment having taught her his patterns. "It's not just on my laptop," she said as Tyler grabbed for her computer. "It's streaming from multiple devices. Multiple platforms. Right now, thousands of people are watching you admit to years of academic fraud." Marcus pulled out his phone, his face going pale. "Dude, it's everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the stream's on everything. The viewer counts at 10K and climbing. Plus, I should mention," Elena continued, backing toward the wall where she knew another camera was positioned. "Everything you just admitted to hacking into school servers, tampering with my code, planting false evidence, that's multiple felonies. And you did it all on camera." Derek's hands clenched into fists. "You little—" He stepped forward aggressively. "And that's when the cavalry arrived." "I don't think so." Jake Martinez emerged from a classroom, followed by Ashley, Sophia, and a dozen other students. They all had their phones out, creating even more angles of documentation. "Touch her, and we'll make sure every college recruiter in the country sees their star prospect assaulting a female student." "This isn't over," Derek snarled, but Elena could see the fear creeping into his eyes. His phone was buzzing non-stop. Coaches, parents, school officials, all presumably seeing their golden boy reveal his true nature to the world. "Actually, it is," Elena said. She pulled up another window on her laptop. "See, while you were so focused on framing me, you forgot something important. Every login leaves a trace. Every grade change has a timestamp. And your crew? They weren't nearly as careful as they thought." The screen displayed a detailed log dates, times, IP addresses, all mapping the systematic grade manipulation going back years. It was all publicly accessible information, just organized in a way that made the pattern undeniable. "You can't prove that was us?" Tyler said desperately. "I don't have to," Elena replied. "That's the beauty of it. I'm just presenting public data. The authorities can subpoena the actual records, match the IPs to specific logins, pull the security footage from the computer lab. Real investigators with real warrants finding real evidence." The sound of running footsteps echoed down the hallway. Principal Foster appeared, face flushed, followed by several other administrators and school security. "What is going on here?" Foster demanded, then stopped as he saw the crowd, the cameras, the laptops showing rapidly climbing viewer counts. Are you broadcasting from school property?" "They're live streaming, sire," one of the security guards said, showing Foster his phone. It's everywhere. The comments are saying something about grade fixing." Foster's eyes found Derek, and Elena saw the moment of recognition. The principal knew, maybe not all the details, but he knew enough to realize his star athlete had just destroyed himself in front of the entire internet. "Everyone to my office. Now," Foster commanded, but his voice lacked its usual authority. How could it not? The viewer count had passed 50. Ling. Number Westfield scandal was trending. The secret was out. As they walked to the administrative offices, Elena felt her phone vibrating constantly. Messages of support. Thanks from former victims. And most surprisingly, a text from an unknown number that turned out to be from a MIT admissions officer, Miss Harper. "We've been made aware of your situation. Please know that MIT values both technical excellence and moral courage. We look forward to reviewing your application with full consideration of the circumstances." The next few hours blurred together. Parents arrived in waves. Lawyers were called. The police took statements. The school board held an emergency meeting that itself was live-streamed by local news outlets who'd picked up the story. Elena sat in a conference room, calmly providing her evidence to investigators. Her documentation was thorough, her presentation clear. She showed them the harassment logs, the threatening messages, the pattern of grade changes. She also showed them her original code, with version control history proving that the malicious functions Derek claimed she'd written were added after her last commit from an IP address that traced back to Tyler Chen's home. "You planned this?" the lead investigator said. "Not unkindly. The whole live stream trap. I protected myself," Elena corrected. "When the system fails to protect students, we have to protect ourselves. I just made sure there were witnesses this time." Meanwhile, in another room, Derek's world was crumbling. The full scope of the investigation was expanding by the hour. Other athletes were being questioned. Years of academic fraud were being uncovered. Syracuse had already released a statement about reviewing his scholarship. His father's donations couldn't buy his way out of video evidence viewed by millions. But perhaps the most satisfying moment came when Elena passed Derek in the hallway during a break in questioning. His Letterman jacket was gone. His perfect hair disheveled. His swagger completely evaporated. He looked at her with something between hatred and bewilderment. "How?" he asked, the single word carrying all his confusion and rage. "You thought I was weak because I was quiet." Elena said simply. "You thought being smart meant being helpless? But intelligence isn't just about coding or grades. It's about solving problems. And you?" She adjusted her glasses, the same glasses he'd mocked. "You were just another bug in the system." By Monday, Westfield High was transformed. Derek Morrison was gone, along with half the starting football team. The investigation had spread to other sports, uncovering a network of academic fraud that went back decades. Coaches were suspended, board members resigned. The entire power structure that had protected bullies and punished victims was crumbling. Elena walked through halls that felt different now. Students nodded at her with respect, some with gratitude. The Robot Girl nickname was still there, but it had transformed from an insult to a badge of honor. She'd been invited to speak at a school board meeting about implementing better oversight systems. Tech companies had reached out about internships. Her MIT application, bolstered by a story that demonstrated both technical skill and ethical courage, seemed stronger than ever. At lunch, she no longer sat alone. Jake, Ashley, Sophia, and others who'd found their voices during the scandal joined her. They talked about forming a legitimate tutoring program based on mutual support rather than coercion. They discussed ways to maintain transparency in school systems, to ensure that what happened with Derek could never happen again. "You know they're calling you a hero," Sophia said, scrolling through her phone. "The story's gone national. High school student exposes decade-long academic fraud ring is trending on every platform." "I'm not a hero," Elena said, uncomfortable with the attention. "I just refuse to be a victim." "Same thing." "Sometimes," Jake offered. "You showed everyone that standing up was possible. That's heroic enough." "Mr. Rodriguez stopped by their table, something he'd never done before. "Elena, I wanted to thank you. I've been teaching here for 5 years. Watching this system hurt good students, feeling powerless to stop it. What you did, it gives me hope that we can actually fix things." "We can," Elena assured him, "but it takes everyone, teachers, students, administrators willing to do the right thing. Transparency makes corruption impossible." The weeks that followed brought more changes. Elena worked with the administration to implement an anonymous reporting system for academic integrity violations. She helped design a new student portal that made grade histories transparent and tamper-evident. The accessibility app that Derek had tried to sabotage was not only cleared of any wrongdoing, but praised as an innovative solution for inclusive education. Most importantly, the culture of fear that had gripped Westfield High began to dissipate. Students who'd been silenced found their voices. Athletes who actually wanted to earn their grades stepped forward. The hierarchy that Derek had killed to maintain dissolved, replaced by something more equitable. Elena received her MIT acceptance letter on a Tuesday afternoon in March. She opened it in the same science hallway where she'd exposed Derek, surrounded by friends who'd stood with her. The acceptance wasn't a surpriser. Application had been strong even before the events that made her nationally known, but it felt like vindication nonetheless. "So, robot girl," Jake said, grinning as she read the letter. "Ready to build some actual robots? Ready to change the world?" Elena replied, carefully folding the letter, one system at a time. As she walked out of Westfield High that day, Elena reflected on the journey. She'd arrived hoping to stay invisible, to survive 3 months without incident. Instead, she'd become the catalyst for systemic change. She'd learned that sometimes the greatest strength wasn't in avoiding confrontation but in facing it with intelligence, preparation, and unwavering principle. The livestream that had exposed Derek Morrison had been viewed over 10 million times across platforms. It had sparked conversations about bullying, academic integrity, and the corruption that can fester in institutions when good people stay silent. Elena had received messages from students across the country, sharing their own stories, finding courage in hers, but perhaps the most meaningful message came from Jason Williams, the basketball player Derek had destroyed for refusing to throw a game. "Thank you." He'd written, "You gave me back my truth." As Elena reached her car, that same beat-up Honda her mother drove, Shay looked back at Westfield High one last time. The building looked the same, all Gothic arches and ivy-covered walls. But appearances could be deceiving. Inside those walls, a revolution had taken place. A hierarchy built on fear had been replaced by a community built on respect. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Proud of you, my brave girl. Pizza tonight to celebrate?" Elena smiled, typing back, "Absolutely. But Mom, I'm not robot girl anymore. I'm just Elena. And that's exactly who I want to be." As she drove away, Elena didn't look back again. She'd faced her bullies, exposed corruption, and helped transform a toxic culture. But that was just the beginning. MIT awaited. And with it, the chance to build technology that could make such stands easier for others. She'd learned that code could change the world, but only when wielded by those brave enough to stand up for what's right. The girl who'd walked into Westfield High hoping to remain invisible had become unforgettable, and in exposing Derek Morrison's reign of terror, she'd revealed a fundamental truth. Bullies maintain power only as long as their victims remain silent. But when someone finally says, "Enough," when they refuse to be broken, when they turn the weapons of the digital age against those who abuse their power, that's when everything changes. Elena Harper had obliterated more than just Derek's reputation. She'd destroyed the very foundation that allowed such tyranny to exist, and in doing so, she'd built something far more powerful: hope. The revolution at Westfield High was complete. The robot had become human. The victim had become the victor, and the silent had found their voice. 3 months later, a freshman girl stood frozen in Westfield High's hallway, surrounded by laughing seniors. Elena, visiting to mentor the new anti-bullying committee, witnessed the scene. But before she could intervene, the freshman pulled out her phone, activating the school's new SafeStream app, Elena's creation. Now implemented district-wide. "This is being recorded and sent directly to administration," the girl announced calmly. The seniors scattered immediately. The freshman looked at Elena with grateful recognition. "Thank you for showing us we don't have to be afraid anymore." Elena smiled. "Some revolutions don't end, they spread. If you've ever been silenced, remember, your voice matters. Stand up, speak out, change everything."